Welcome to 8th episode of Everyday Persian. I'm your host, Michela Lansing. I'm so pleased to be able to create 8 episodes for you guys and keep going and share my culture with you and also teach you how to make Persian food the easy way. Today I'm going to show you how to make a really delicious, popular Persian dish called Fesenjoon. It's a mixture of meat, chicken or beef, and then ground walnuts and one of the famous things, pomegranate molasses, which is super popular. This dish, it looks very difficult, but it's actually very easy to make. And I'm going to even simplify it more for you so that you can make it at the comfort of your home. I'm going to walk you through the ingredients little by little and show you how to prep. Okay, so let's get started. The ingredients for making Fesenjoon are very simple. They're things you can find in your kitchen, except 2 things. One is the pomegranate molasses. It's this one. It's made of sour molasses. It's basically sour molasses made of pomegranate, and they come in different brands, but I use this one. It works for me very well. And the other ingredient is crushed walnuts. I actually grind them, and the trick about walnuts is that if you buy them fresh from farmers market and such in whole, they will keep their moisture much longer and it tastes better when you cook them. If the walnuts are dry and you try to grind them, it will become grainy and hard and it doesn't taste as good. So keep that in mind before you purchase them. So let's go through the ingredients one by one. So the ingredients for making Fesenjoon, it's very easy. Usually you can use chicken or beef. Here I have chicken. I bought chicken, washed it and dried it. Here it is. I cut it into drumsticks and thigh pieces because that's how my kids like to eat it. We have soaked rice. I soaked this rice overnight in order to make it today, because when you soak the rice overnight, it becomes more moist and also you can remove all the impurities from the rice. Then we have a regular vegetable oil or canola oil. Do not use olive oil. It will not work with this dish. Then we have one secret ingredient, crushed walnuts. I buy the whole walnuts from the farmer's market and then crush them with the food processor. Here we have chopped onions. I have some finely chopped onions and then a whole onion. Sometimes people don't like the texture of onion in this dish. They use a whole onion like this and then they remove it from the dish. That way the flavor is there but not the texture. Then we have salt and pepper. I use kosher salt and white pepper. White pepper is a little bit different. It's milder, but it still has that fresh flavor of pepper. And then we have turmeric, which is a signature in most Persian food, and especially in this food. And lastly, another secret ingredient, pomegranate molasses. That's the difficult one to find, but you can find it on Amazon. I actually found it there. This is the one I like. I use the Sadaf brand, which says it's sour version of pomegranate molasses. There are other brands that you can buy. It really doesn't matter. Either way, they all work. And you need about a cup of that. And lastly, I have a little bit of lavash bread. Lavash bread is just used for the bottom of the rice so that I can make some tahdig with it. Okay. Then we're going to go over the utensils quickly and get started. There are just a few utensils I want to make sure you have before you get started. You need a ladle for serving, just a basic ladle, anything you have. A rubber spatula, a serving fork, and a serving spoon. And as far as pots and pans, you need a good frying pan and a good pot to make your rice. So now I'm going to go over the first part, which is making the chicken. So now we enter the cooking section. We have some rice that I soaked overnight. Right now it's cooking over a medium heat with water, a little bit of salt added to water, and we're going to cook this rice and then drain it later. Over here we have a flat iron skillet. This is a rather small one, but I use these all the time because food cooks better. We're going to start by adding a little oil and then basically fry this turmeric inside of this oil. Why do we fry the turmeric? It's because fried turmeric tastes a lot better. It has the toasty flavor that makes everything so much better. This is a trick that I learned a long time ago and so important. As we fry this turmeric, I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to the chicken. Come over here so you can see better. Got salt. Be generous because your food tastes better when it has salt and pepper on it, and then your guests and your children eat it better. So don't be so worried about, oh my gosh, how much salt and pepper is too much, it's unhealthy. As long as they eat the food, it's healthy. So salt and pepper. Now we're moving back to the pan. I'm going to put these face down. They can be tightly knit here, it's okay. On a medium heat, basically fry these chickens. I like to start high, on a high heat, and then turn the heat low. Now usually people put saffron in there too, but I'm okay. Sometimes you can put saffron and sometimes you can just go without it. As you can see, it's going to start frying. Looks good. Okay. You see the beautiful golden color of the chicken? That's what makes it so good. Now, move these around a little bit. All right. You don't want to burn the chicken because you still want it to be delicate but flavorful. So keep eye on the chicken. You don't want hard surfaces. Just want a nice flavored food. Now, this is cooking. I'm going to add the onions we talked about. So just to show everybody, the chopped onions are one option. This is another option. If you choose to do this, you're just going to leave it here on the side and let it cook. But if you choose to do this, you're going to sprinkle it all over. I'm going to remove this. I have more room. All over, and let the onion cook with everything else. The reason you add the onion later is because you don't want to burn the onion. If you start with onions and then add the chicken, by the time your chicken is cooked, your onions are fried, brown, and that's not what you want. I think I like to turn this over. you're here, you can see how good it smells here. The smell is amazing. So while this is cooking, I'm going to show you the rice. Come over to the rice pot and see. You see how it's bubbling? This will start boiling to a point that the rice is fully cooked, and then I drain the water and then return the rice back to the same pot. So keep that in mind. It's nothing alarming that it's boiling. That's what you want. Now, if you come back here to this dish, you see, to the pan, you see everything is cooking. You don't need to cook the chicken fully. You just need to cook the outside of the chicken. Because later you're going to put this in an oven and it will cook even better. This is what I want, this kind of a look. You see how it's like deliciously crispy? That's the look I'm looking for. All right, now, while this is happening, you're going to get your crushed walnuts. This is a whole cup. I like it loaded with walnuts, so I put a lot. Some people like it about half. It's just your preference. So here we go. And you're going to fry this with the chicken. It's going to coat the chicken the same time as it becomes fried. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about walnuts. Walnuts are very easy to find, but you have to be careful when you buy them, because you have to buy the whole ones, like the half ones, because they are the one that have the most moisture. If you buy the already crushed ones, they're already dry, they don't have as much flavor. And if you're making this dish, you want to add the walnuts later. If you start with the walnuts, you will burn them because they're very delicate, and the flavor of the food changes. Also, another thing to remember, when you add the walnuts at the third stage, which I did, it kind of works as like a breading to your chicken. So it kind of breads your chicken. It makes it even more flavorful. So I'm going to direct you back to here so you can see. You see how the walnuts are thickened? This is great. This is what you want. Okay, now it's the time that I add the pomegranate molasses. I'm going to just make enough space everywhere here. This is good. There we go. Okay, great. Pomegranate molasses. I'm going to add about a cup, but you can add half a cup or a whole cup. Do you see it? Look how good this looks. Absolutely delicious. I'm going to lower the heat since this is very viscous. I need a little bit more. Okay, here we go. Take your time, because the more you take your time with your food, the more delicious it will become. All right, so as you see how it's thickening, it's kind of becoming like a jam, but a delicious kind of a salty, savory jam. This dish is savory. It has sweet flavor and it has salty flavor. Okay, so let's talk about this. We're going to talk about the molasses. It's important that you understand that some food needs sugar. So in this case, this food needs sugar, because if you leave the molasses as is, it will be too sour. It will be unpleasant. Just like if you make a pasta sauce, sometimes because the pasta is the sauce is too sour, you have to add a couple of spoons of sugar. I'm going to do the same thing with this. Now take a look. It's bubbling nicely. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of sugar in here. and gently toss this around. I sometimes use sugar powder because it melts easier and it doesn't have the grainy texture. So here we go. Okay, I forgot my tongs. That's why I'm having a tough time with this. All right, so you turn these around. I think I can go this way with this one. Yeah. All right, you see how nice and like neatly they're tucked in? This is great. Now, as this is cooking, I'm going to add some water. So I add about 1.5 cups of water to this to thin out the sauce. And then I'm going to put it in the oven for about 400 to 450, about 20 minutes. And then your food's ready. So I'm going to put my Fesenjoon in the oven about 400 to 450. But before you do that, you're going to lift it and place it in a cooking sheet. That way nothing bubbles over. And then it's also easier to move it around. And even if you spill, it's okay. Here goes. I put it on 475 because I want to cook fast. But 475 for about 20 minutes, it's a pretty decent amount of time for this to cook. Now, let's take a look at the rice. While this is cooking, the rice is bubbling, soon the water evaporates, and then I'm going to wash the rice and cook it back into the same pan. So let's get to that. If you look at this pot, I put a little bit of oil and about 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm going to make a tahdig. I've showed this before, but I thought it's worth teaching again. I usually use lavash bread. I cut it into small pieces. Ooh, let me turn that down a little. So there are 2 ways. You see how I'm covering this? So the what do you call it? The butter will melt eventually. So you can make a lot of tahdig, like all the way to the sides, or you can just put enough at the very bottom. I kind of like a lot, so I'm going to move these a little bit and put this one on the side. And there you have it. It's nothing complicated. It's just patience. All right. I wanted to talk to you about tahdig because it's one of the most popular things in Persian food, and you have 2 ways of making it. You can first fry the bread and then add the rice over it and just kind of slowly cook it, or you can slow cook the whole thing and at the end turn up the heat and make a tahdig in the bottom. 2 ways, both works. There's no wrong or right way to do it. As long as you come up with a tahdig, it's good. Okay, let's take a look. You see the bread is kind of buttery and delicious and ready to go. I am going to use the first way, which is first fry the bread, then add the rice. I'm going to turn up the heat. And the reason I want to do this is because I can control the color of my tahdig this way. It's a little bit easier. So here we go. I'm going to space this out. Perfect. Looks good. It's becoming, sometimes you can make little incisions for air to come out. Okay, so it's medium heat cooking. I think it's about ready. Great, yes. This is my rice. I drained it. So all I'm going to do is add this on top of my tahdig. There's a little bit of water in there, which is okay. It allows rice to have that moment of lengthening. This is something that you have to remember. You have a lid. You cover the top of the lid with your tea napkin and you put it on top. Make sure it's safe and lower the heat to the lowest level that you can. And give it about 10 minutes and your rice will be ready. Okay, so I'm going to finish and serve this for you in a few minutes, and you can see what the finished product looks like. Well, it's ready. I cooked the chicken in the oven 475 because I wanted to cook faster a little bit for 20 minutes. The rice is ready. Rice took about 10 minutes and the tahdig is ready. So I'm going to show you what we have and how to serve it. Let's get to it. Here I have the Fesenjoon. It looks perfect. The chicken's perfectly cooked. Here I have the rice and the tahdig. Here it is. Put this down. Here's the tahdig, the famous tahdig. Okay, now for serving, start with rice. You put about 2 or 3 tablespoons depending on your guests, how much they like to eat. I put about 3 because it just looks prettier. And then select a piece of chicken. I usually like the look and flavor of thigh. So I'm going to go with this piece of thigh chicken here. Maybe this one? No, hold on. This one. Yeah. Okay, so you put the thigh on top. You get some of the juice, which has pomegranate, molasses, and walnuts. Pour it over. Okay. And then you garnish or just add a beautiful piece of tahdig to it. I think I'm going to go like this so it doesn't cover my chicken. Hold on, let's see. Let me break it into smaller pieces. That's better. Here we go. 1, 2. And then I made some mustard, which is Persian cucumber with yogurt, Greek yogurt, salt and pepper, and a little bit of mint. And you just kind of put a little bit on the side. The flavor is great because it cuts the richness of this food. So here we go. Let's see. Make it all nice and neat. Your food's ready.